Hello, and this is my Postdoc Chronicles week number. I believe it's five. Yeah, I believe we're in week number five, and so basically, if you notice, I have now a new background. I'm now in my new accommodation, but I'm gonna do a tour of it in the next Postdoc Chronicles because I just moved in here. Okay, so I just moved in here last weekend, and so it's now the cheaper accommodation, and I'll be here like until I finished my postdoc. Okay, and so as update for my postdoc chronicles, currently Jong is asking me to read this book called by Bargers and Phillips called Collider Physics, and we're doing a single chapter on it on Monte Carlo simulations. And basically, it's an old book, so there's a we're studying the charmed decay, the decay of the charmed quark within a charmed a hadron with a charm in it. Okay, and since it's an old book, it actually uses to do the integration over the phase space. It is using Fortran. Okay, so what I'm doing is there's a code there that evaluates the decay rate and the cross section using Monte Carlo, but it's running in Fortran. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to study how the code works, what it does, and attempt to translate it into C++ because Chong told me that we're gonna be writing our codes in C++, and on my part, it's a bit tricky. I'm not a complete noob when it comes to programming. I know how to program, but my problem typically today is the syntax, right? So I'm trying to like familiarize how functions work, what the syntaxes are when it comes to C++ and Fortran, and the reason is that in my PhD, my dissertation is basically it did not involve any programming at all. Okay, so it involved a lot of proving theorems and lemma and so on. So I didn't have to program anything, and so now I'm relearning it. But again, I have an idea how program works. Only the problem is that when I go to C++, I don't know the syntax within that programming language. So that's what we're currently doing right now. And then before we will delve into QCD and do Parton showers hadronization with the full-on tools of the programming that I'm gonna learn. Okay, so that's basically what I'm doing. Last week, like first part of the week, I was able to finish the final project in Peskin and Schroeder, and then on the other half, I began reading that textbook. Okay, and so the thing that I want to talk about right now is when I was in Trematon. So in my first accommodation, during the first few weeks that I was there, I was alone in the entire complex. But then, like on the there was a time when another guy, okay, was also lodging in there, and he's an old guy. His name is Philip. He's from Belgium, and he was doing his sabbatical. Okay, and yeah, so we met when I was like buying my food going out, and then basically we talked. Like he invited me. He cooked dinner and so on. Like he cooked this, I don't know, Belgian food like broccoli on top of a rice. So it was weird, but it was very yummy. Okay, and then we talk about his profession and mine. So basically, he's doing sabbatical, and he's a demographer. So he studies population, and basically his expertise is on the effects of immigration, specifically in South Africa, to the public health, right? And so things like AIDS and the dynamics of that of the disease, and for example, observations like why is it that the South African population in general, both male and female, they are like subject to the same, the same like food, the same what do you call this, the same level of living, but according to their data, the female ones are more obese when compared to men, right? So there's like a bigger obesity problem when it comes to the female. Okay, so that's so he's been here before, like he taught in Wits, and then now he just visits time and again. He'll only be here for like a few months. Okay, and what I've noticed is the nice thing is that and by the way, when he asked me, so like what do you know of Belgium, I told him no, I don't know anything about Belgium. The only thing I know is that our national hero Jose Rizal, when he was in Europe, he actually published his second novel El Filibusterismo in Ghent, Belgium. Okay, that's the only thing I know about Belgium. And then so he basically told me when he heard that I'm a physicist that in his university actually there's a Nobel laureate, which was basically the partner of Peter Higgs when he did the Higgs mechanism. There was another guy, a Belgian, I believe his name is Englert, Francois Englert or something. Don't quote me on that, but he came to the same university where Philip was, and he asked me, he said, "Ah, yeah, we have a very good particle physics in our place." And but the thing that I noticed is that we had a very long, we have a very long, at least on my part, informed conversation on demography, like about population. I have like a lot of questions on him. Like what he was doing was really interesting. But then when it came to my field, I noticed like there was nothing. There was like a huge barrier there. So it's very typical when like I meet other people and then I say, I'm a physicist, and they're like, you must be very good, and I'm very bad in math, I'm very bad in physics. And I noticed that the moment we talk, so when he talked about demography, we were like able to converse very meaningful topics related to population. Like I told him the population problem in the Philippines, like that, and so on. And in fact, he said in one of his classes he used our country as an example in some of his discussions. But when it came to mine, I told him I was doing particle physics. Like the conversation basically stopped there. He wasn't like, what do you do there? Like, how come the particles are part fundamental and so on, right? So, and that's one of the main thing that is hard for us physicists, scientists in general, mathematicians, and other fields of sciences. It's very hard to like to sell our subject, and in turn, to justify to the government that we need funding and so on, because it in order to have a meaningful conversation in it. Okay, in order to, for example, in order to ask me some meaningful questions in like particle physics, you have to be like trained in the language, right? You have to be like at least at the level of like, I don't know, undergrad in physics. If all you know is like what do you call this, the things that a layperson knows, yeah, you can ask interesting questions, but like it's not as as in depth as a, for example, a physicist talking to another fellow physicist. Okay, so yeah, that was a very a really good conversation. So a very good observation that I had, right? So our in order to have a meaning, our what do you call this, our results, our field of study is like glow, in these things that you still need to learn to be able to begin to comprehend what it is we're doing in the first place, why it is important, why it is useful. So that's why so that's one of the thing that makes it hard. Okay, but enough of that. Another one, I met this time a South African when I was like doing my last set of laundry before I moved here. There was actually, I was like playing my Nintendo Switch, right? I was like playing Enter the Gungeon, and then suddenly like he really wanted to converse, and so we began talking. And he was very proud that he knew a lot of people, like, oh, I know someone from Japan, I know someone from like that. And he was very happy I was from the Philippines, and like it's the first time that he knew someone from the Philippines. And the reason why he was so happy that he now knows someone from the Philippines is because he's a huge fan of Manny Pacquiao. Okay, and the first time he told me about the name, he's like, oh, Philippines. So the way he pronounced Manny Pacquiao was very weird. It's like Mini Pacquiao or something. I was like, oh, who's that? And then he said the boxer, and it's like, the boxer. There's only one boxer who's like famous worldwide in my country, and that's Manny Pacquiao. And I told him a lot of. I am not a. He's even more knowledgeable. Compared to me when it comes to boxing, like he knows all the history of Pacquiao. Like, oh, have you seen his battle with like De La Hoya and Ricky Hatton? He was like that. He was really fanboying to the max, and his name is, by the way, Zway, Zway. Okay, and yeah, I told him that Manny Pacquiao is basically like a senator, and I told him maybe the reason why he lost in his last fight is because he has divided attention. Instead of like focusing on boxing practice, he's doing politics, and then the guy said he was really a big Pacquiao fan. He was like, no, if you battle what's the name of this? If you battle the famous boxer, the last fight of Pacquiao, he said all you need is money, right, to win. He said like that fight was rigged according to him. But yeah, anyway, he was really very happy that he was able to converse with me about Manny Pacquiao. And also, yeah, I told him about my observations in Africa. Like I told him I'm into heavy metal, and then he looked at my t-shirt. He's like, yeah, I can see that very very wild and so on. And I told him, yeah. And then when I observed the students here in Witwatersrand, most of the guys here are like into hip hop, right? And you can tell right away when they have like headphones. You can tell in their movement if like, they're like listening to hip hop or heavy metal. Okay, and yeah, he said yeah, most of the guys here are really like he knows so very few black people who are into heavy metal. And of course, yeah, one of my greatest dream here is to see like an all black ensemble of heavy metal band, because I know one which is Sepultura, who was a black member, but I haven't seen like a full-on heavy metal band whose members are all black. So I think it would be very cool. Okay, so yeah, basically that's the chronicles that I'd have to relate as of now. Wait, by the way, one last thing I just remember, in our lounge, right, in the where we drink our free coffee every morning and every afternoon in the School of Physics. I was looking. There's a bookshelf there. I was looking around. One picture that caught my attention was a picture of Ernest Rutherford, who was visiting that School of Physics that I am working right now, and he was like standing in the entrance of the School of Physics. So I was like very proud, because Ernest Rutherford, the guy who told us that the atomic nucleus existed, he was standing right there at the entrance where I get into school every day. So that made me very very proud. That entrance never felt the same. Okay, when I saw that picture, so like every time I go to that step, I'm like, Ernest Rutherford was here in 1929. But a more cooler one that I saw is I also saw the autograph of Niels Bohr. Okay, so there's like a uh, what do you call this? There's like a maybe I think a faculty from the School of Physics in Witwatersrand, and then he has like a recommendation letter or a reference letter coming from Niels Bohr himself. And so basically in there, Niels Bohr had a very flowering recommendation of this guy, and then his name there, and then his signature. So every time I go up there, like I look at that, I'm like, oh, this paper once uh, was in the presence of one of the greatest physicists of all time, Niels Bohr. Okay, so I took a picture of it. I don't know. I'm gonna ask permission. I want to like hold that case, and then have a picture with me personally, so that I wanna hold that vase. It's like framed. I want to hold that. Yeah. So that's really very cool. Okay, and so basically that's it. Next week I'm gonna like video my new accommodation. It's really cool. It's smaller, but it's basically the same, and it's way cheaper. And I just walk going to the school. It's just across the street instead of riding the bus. Okay, so that's my Postdoc Chronicles number 5, and I'll see you for Postdoc Chronicles number 6. Thanks for watching.